Okay, thanks, Tony. Those were great opening remarks and a perfect segue into what I wanted to share with you today, which is around the promise of this wearable platform that we're starting to create. So there's a flurry of products that are hitting the market that we're all creating or we're all using. And right now, we are already carving out a $750 million market, which is pretty good. But as Tony mentioned, we are moving towards, or it's forecasted to move towards a $50 billion market in just the next couple years. So the question is, how do we move forward, and how do we create these products in the way that we want that we want them to be, and how do we create them so that they're improving our lives? So I wanted to compare the wearable technology industry to the smartphone industry and the evolution of the smartphone. So with smartphones, where we started was really taking a technology and making it work. So the brick phone was kind of marked the very first entry point into the smartphone era, where we no longer were tied to a cord in the wall, but we could make a phone call from anywhere. And if you compare it to wearables, we were doing something similar. So we were taking technology and getting it to work, especially in the medical and the military field. So they were very utilitarian, with kind of little consideration around style and the wearability, and how we can create these products for broader consumer markets. So then, the next major milestone in the smartphone evolution was the BlackBerry. And what the BlackBerry did was it gave us additional capabilities, and it made it smaller. So not only could we make a phone call, but now we could check email and we could browse the web. So the BlackBerry was focused, it opened up the audience to a specific domain, which is information workers and productivity, which is very niche market. If you compare that to wearables, the Nike Fuel Band is a good product that represents something similar. So with Nike, what that did was opened up, introduced wearables to a little bit larger audience, but it's still a very narrow audience. Focus on fitness. So the next major milestone in the smartphone evolution is the iPhone. So what the iPhone did was that really opened up this whole new platform to a broader consumer market. And what they did is they added style and almost made this product feel like a status symbol, became a status symbol for people. And it also opened up this new web-based platform that allowed Apple and other developers around the world to add additional capabilities and services to it. So the question is, how do we do that for wearables? How do we get to that point? It's rumored that all the major players in the next year are going to be coming out with some kind of device. Here's a concept of the iWatch, which actually looks pretty intriguing to me. But the iWatch, and the other thing that the iWatch is great is that because it's created by Apple, it can connect to the iPhone, and now it extends the ecosystem, essentially. But the smartwatches aren't the only form factor that I think we can create. So Google Glass is a really good example of an early prototype that is intended to hit the mainstream. And what Google Glass, on one hand, what Google Glass represents is extreme innovation in this space and the marking of a completely new industry. And then on the other hand, it also represents tremendous challenges that we have in front of us. Challenges around the wearability of these devices, privacy, and overall style. So the question is, how do we move forward? And how do we create these products and move towards that $50 billion piece of pie? And it's kind of cheesy, but that's a really good-looking pie. Strawberry rhubarb. So today, I'm going to share with you a few opportunities that I see, huge opportunities that we can all use to create these products that we want. And then you always hear about success stories. So today I thought that it would be great to share with you a failure story in attempting to take a new wearable product to the market. I think we can learn a lot of lessons with that. And we're all stumbling through this, so we're going to be learning together. So I wanted to share with you that. So first, let me introduce myself a little bit more. I live and work in Seattle, Washington, and I work for a product technology firm called Artefact. And what we do at Artefact is we create next-generation products and services that combine hardware, services, and UX. And we work for all the major players, so all the consumer electronics players in different companies like this, bringing totally new experiences to the market. I also run a wearable technology studio called Electric Foxy, where I have been pushing the boundaries on what we can do with technology and literally weaving it into the fabric of our lives. These are a couple examples of the products that I've been developing through that studio. So I'm very hands-on, so this is me rolling up my sleeves, getting into the technology and exploring new ways that we can integrate displays and interfaces into the things that we wear. Looking at manufacturing and patterning and how we can create or integrate the technology into the pattern of garments and other products so that we can actually manufacture them. Looking at biometrics, different placements, the performance of biometrics, and then also creating my own sensor. So this is a knitted stretch sensor that I place in context, so paper prototyping for different contexts and different use cases. This is in a Pilates studio, which I'll share this project, the outcome of this, later on in the talk. So really my core mission is how do we use the body as interface? And how can we create a totally new interaction language using the body as interface? And with that, the ultimate question, I think, is how we do to wearables what the iPhone did to the smartphone industry. So how can we move ourselves forward? There is a researcher, Martin Lindstrom, who did a study on brands and how people perceive brands and feel about brands and products on the market. And what he did is he connected, he listened to the brain waves of people using iPhones. And one of the results is that he found that there's a flurry of activity in the insular cortex of the brain that correlates to love and feelings of compassion. So ultimately what he found is that we literally love our iPhones. So I'm not advocating that we love our products, but the question for me is how can we create that deep connection with our products to the point where people not only have to use them, like the medical devices, but they truly want these devices. So from my perspective, it's really about adding that desirability to our products, both from the perspective of the form factor, the hardware, and then also the UX and the software. So through all of this work, there are three huge opportunity areas that I see. And they're meant to be, I'm going to share these with you, and they're meant to be thought of as blending together so that we can really move our products forward into this new space and define this new industry. But even if you take away today just one of these, I guarantee that even one of these, if you go deep into it, it will move our products forward and help reach that connection with our audiences. So the first one is around this idea of beauty. So if we're taking technology off of the computers and asking people to add it, put it on their bodies, it has to look good. So the things that we wear become an expression of ourselves. They really become part of an identity and help us communicate values or the things that we care about. So we need to consider that when we're creating these devices. What I'm not talking about today is this idea of fashion. So having worked in the consumer electronics industry, the word fashion has a lot of connotation to it, and it's heavy. When you're designing or you're working with these products, we have to be careful on how we define beauty. The word fashion can be very fleeting and seasonal, and what we want is to create something that's timeless and extremely beautiful. So what makes a product beautiful? There are a number of ways that I define it. So let's start with looking at kind of the spectrum of what we're building today. So the Basis watch. Does anybody own a Basis? Wow, I'm surprised. Okay, I do. So I'm using the Basis watch, which is a heart rate monitor. And I'm a runner. I've been a runner for a while, and I have a heart murmur. So tracking my heart rate is pretty important to me. So one of the great innovations of the Basis is that it takes the heart rate off of the chest, which is kind of uncomfortable, and puts it on the wrist, which makes it a little bit more accessible and easier to wear. For me, I have really small hands or really small wrists. So this is a picture of what it looks like on my wrist. So if this is meant to be worn all day, it doesn't necessarily fit into my lifestyle. It's a little bit large. It doesn't fit the style that I'm looking for. But it serves a great purpose, and it provides me a lot of utility. On the other end of the spectrum, we're creating these products that are incredibly expressive. So like this Cute Circuit has created an entire company around integrating technology like LEDs into couture. They're very expressive, but they're not necessarily that useful. So what we're seeing is that we have these products where they're very useful and they have utilitarian value. And we have, on the other end of the spectrum, expressive products. And what we need to do is we need to blend those two together to create beauty. So they're not only expressive, but they're also very useful. So how do we do this? There are a variety of ways that I think we can do this. One is around this idea of mixing classic forms with materials. This is a photo of a turntable that I have in my house. I love this thing. And to me, this has a very classic feel. It feels timeless, even though it's decades old. And what they're doing with this product is they're mixing these materials in really interesting ways. So they've got a nice wood grain with the brushed metal, and they're using very simple forms for the interface. There's a product that is coming out, Misfit Shine. I think Sunny is going to be here. Sunny Vu will be here to talk. This product is doing just that. So they are applying a classic form, very circular shape, materials. They're really looking at the materials, and they're adding beauty to their product, and it's actually becoming a differentiator for them. So this product is a fitness product, and even though there are other fitness products out there, like the Nike Fuel Band and Jawbone, I really want this. So just by adding beauty alone could be a differentiator for your product. Another idea of adding beauty is really paying attention to the craftsmanship. Consumers are becoming very sophisticated, and they want their products to look good and be well made. So this is an example of a shoe by Adidas that does just that. So they're looking at this little loop in the back. It forms a function. It helps you pull your shoe up. And the way that it's crafted, you can see the stitches. They use a really nice leather. They reinforce it with rugged wool. And the craftsmanship becomes, and the functionality of the craftsmanship becomes the aesthetic. And this is one of the most successful shoes. The other idea of beauty is creating this sense of expressiveness. So Nike Fuel Band does a great job at helping you align with some values. So as soon as you put this Fuel Band on, you're aligning yourself with their brand. You're branding yourself. So the things that you care about, you're communicating that to people. You're expressing that to people. I care about my fitness. I like to work out. I'm an athlete, kind of thing. The other aspect of this is the materials that they use. They almost add humor in the materials by making it transparent, so you can see the inner workings, the guts of the hardware and the electronics. It almost mimics exposing and showing the inner guts of an athlete. So this is mine. I'm wearing it today. I wear it all the time, and what I love about it is it's getting gross. It's getting dirty and filthy. And the way that it's aging is actually making it more beautiful and better for me. And it gives me bragging rights. So it lets me show, yeah, I wear this thing. I'm out there sweating. I'm doing it. So we have the chance to, in the form factor in our ID, to be extremely expressive and help make our products beautiful in a way that consumers, we connect with them. So I just talked about hardware. We can also create more beautiful software. So I'm going to show you one example. Let's take something that we are all familiar with today, which is a to-do list. So what if you took a to-do list and you have a pile of tasks and visually represented it as a triangle? And let's say we added color to represent the different types of tasks, and scale representing the amount of tasks. So imagine if we had a wristband, similar to the Nike, where it displayed. We have this ambient visualization of our to-do list. And by removing or abstracting what we're communicating and visualizing it, displaying it this way, it becomes very expressive and very beautiful. So as I wear this and it changes, it's allowing me to express who I am on a daily basis. So it becomes very beautiful, and it can lead to that desire and that connection with the product. So we talked about beauty. There are many, many other ways to make our products beautiful. It's one thing to make our products beautiful and the software side beautiful, but we also have to add meaning to it. So the more meaning that we can add, the deeper the connection is, which would lead to that desire. So let's go back to this basis. So here's the basis again on my wrist. One thing that I think that it does really well, and what we can do with wearables, is make the information very glanceable. So with the basis watch, it takes the heart rate, and unlike in the heart rate, the strap, the chest strap, you can quickly glance and see what your heart rate is. And what I think that in the future we can move even further beyond this, and not only make our information glanceable, but also make it actionable. So one of the problems with this is I don't know what to do with that heart rate. It's great to be able to see it, but I don't know what it means and what I need to do. So this is a product concept that I developed through Electric Foxy that changes that. It's an evolution of that. And what it does is it takes your heart rate and it communicates it to you based on a zone. So it translates it, simplifies it down to a zone. So if you're either in your zone or you're running too hot, and this little light on the ring will turn red to indicate that you're running too hot, or it will turn blue to indicate that you're running too cold. So instantly, at a glance, I can look down, I know what it's telling me, and I know exactly what to do. I know if I need to step it up or if I need to cool it down. So we have the opportunity to really make our products more meaningful by making our information not only glanceable, but also very actionable without having the user or the consumer think about it. The other idea to make it more meaningful and create that connection is this idea of being more contextual and aware. So our products can start to become a companion for us and work for us. So let's go back to this task list concept. So let's say you're wearing this thing. It knows where you are. And if you go grocery shopping, it should know that you're going grocery shopping. So imagine if you're grocery shopping, then it can start looking at your whole database, let's call it, your list of tasks to do. And since it knows that you're in the grocery store, it can automatically take the most important task and give you a reminder. So rather than you taking out your phone and searching for that task, it's working for you. It's becoming a companion. So it can make, this leads us to creating these products that are a lot less obtrusive and that work for us. So we're carrying around pretty good mini computer, the phone. So we have, with these wearables, we have the ability to leverage the phone, the processing power, and use the phone as a way to integrate other services and capabilities. So another way we can add meaning is by combining data in really interesting ways and combining services in interesting ways using the phone. So one example of this is now that we are able to collect biometric data, what if we took that biometric data and started using it for other types of experiences other than medical or fitness, and started merging other services? So imagine merging biometric data, let's say your emotional state, with a service like Facebook, and creating completely new meaning or a completely new experience. So one idea, one concept that came out of Electric Foxy as well is this idea of a device that detects your emotional state. So it knows when you're in a heightened emotional state or when you're kind of boh humbug. And then imagine if you took that data and you combined it with Facebook and you're looking at your Facebook timeline. So not only with the timeline can you get a historical reference on your life, but now you can look at your life and based on what made you happy or what didn't make you happy. A product that's on the market today that is adding additional meaning is this one that it's called Melon. It's essentially a product that helps you with your focus. And what they're doing, what's interesting about them is we have the ability to look for trends and look for patterns and then find those interesting correlations. And so what they're doing is they're looking for those correlations and giving you suggestions and sharing those correlations so you have better insight on you. So we talked about beauty, we talked about meaning. The third big opportunity area that I like to share today is this idea of periphery. The idea of periphery, I think, is completely unexplored. There's a wheat field of opportunities here, and it gets me very excited. I wanted to share with you this product, which is a pair of pants that have integrated keyboard, and it's intended to be used like this. This is not good. So this is an example of what not to do. With wearables, it's not about using the interactive metaphors that we know today. We have the body as interface, so we need to come up with a totally new way of interacting. With the phone, if we're comparing wearables to the phone market, what the phone did is it did that for the smartphones. iPhone offered multi-touch to the masses and created this really natural experience that brought technology to the masses. There's a prominent HCI person, Bill Buxton. Has anyone heard of Bill Buxton? Okay, wow. He's a principal researcher from Microsoft, and he's from Microsoft. Ironically, he's talking about the iPhone and the impact it made here. I wanted to show you this clip.
And then we got this rude awakening, and it was called the iPhone in 2007. And so the iPhone introduced, I would argue, a whole new paradigm to of the nature of interaction. One that we knew in the labs, there was lots of evidence for it, but in terms of broad commercial deployment, this thing changed things, and they deserve to get credit for it. But there was nothing new about it. There was no new functionality. The miracle wasn't multi-touch. The iPhone would have been successful even if it had single touch. That wasn't what it was. It was the flow. It wasn't where you were or what you could do. It was how you did it and how you could move from one thing to another. That was the magic. It started to be analog instead of digital. It wasn't poke, poke, poke. It was glide, slide. You know, maybe it's because I'm Canadian and like ice hockey.
Okay, so what he's talking about is that the iPhone made the experience was magical, and it made it really natural, bringing a new interactive paradigm to interacting with your cell phone. And we have the ability to do the same thing with wearables, where we're using the periphery, this idea of periphery, and we're using the body as the interface. So what I mean by periphery is this. So let's take the phone. When you're interacting with the phone, you're interacting with it in your immediate cone of vision. But there is all of this stuff happening around us. So there's this stuff happening in your visual periphery. So I can see both my hands, I can see both sides of the room. And there's stuff happening behind us in our non-visual periphery. So when you're driving and you hear the emergency vehicle is driving behind you, you hear it and you have a sense of where it is, even though you can't see it. So Google Glass has a tremendous opportunity to take advantage of the periphery. So this is my friend Zach from Lyft, who we're exploring using Google Glass. And the interesting thing about this is that what Google Glass is doing right now in this early stage is it's actually it's diverting your attention up to the screen that's meant to be worn on the forehead. So rather than using the periphery, it's changing your focus and making you kind of look up like this, and then you have to focus up here. So there's a great opportunity for Google Glass to use this idea of periphery, but it's a missed opportunity right now. And then I wanted to share this. It's kind of interesting early UI concept that they had posted publicly, where they're showing when you do divert your attention and you're reading the interface, it's showing you an interface right in the center of your view. So notice that you're just about to take a step down the stairs. So in this case, it becomes very distracting and could lead to this. So there's a missed opportunity there. There is this product concept called the Hemery Glasses that is doing it really well. It's really using this idea of the periphery well. And what they're doing, they're creating, the concept is for the hearing impaired, where you wear these glasses and it translates the noise, environmental noise, into this ambient pattern, the squiggly lines on the side of the glasses. And so what that's doing is it's allowing you to read what's happening around you in an ambient way that you can consume it without being distracted. So you can continue to walk down the street without running into the pole, and you can get a sense of the bus that's going by or the noise that's happening in the environment. Now, the visual, this area, the visual periphery, isn't the only area that we can use. Since we're using the body as interface, we can also use other areas of the periphery. So this is another concept product. These GPS shoes include lights on the toes that help you navigate. So they help you point you left or right. So really, you're using this ambient visual display to help you navigate. Now, this company, just funded on Kickstarter, I think, it does the same thing, only it's using haptics. So now, based on touch, you can get, it can help you navigate without having to use your visual periphery. So this brings me to this project. So the idea of periphery, or using the body as interface, isn't just visual periphery. We have the ability to create this whole interaction language using all of our senses. So sound, sight, and touch. So this is a product that I'm currently working on through Electric Foxy that does just that. It uses touch. So I love Pilates, and I've been doing Pilates for a while. And so I was asking myself how we can use technology to help with that experience. So this is a shirt for Pilates, and Pilates is all about the precision in movement. This shirt includes sensors, the gray there, sensors in the front, the back, and the sides, that together they measure and assess your moves, your Pilates moves. So this is an early prototype that also includes haptic feedback. So not only is it measuring your movement, but it has the ability to provide feedback. So this is an early haptic feedback from the lily pad in the prototype. And there's haptic feedback in both hips and both shoulders. So together, this product measures and assesses your moves, and it gives you feedback in the general area that you need to adjust. And it's doing that all through your periphery. And the benefit of that is that you no longer, when you're in the middle of your Pilates move or if you're in the middle of your Pilates move, you don't have to pull out your phone and see what it's doing. It tells you that without disrupting. So we really have the opportunity to make this interaction more invisible and less obtrusive. So these are the biggest opportunities that I see in terms of creating these experiences. This is all from a design perspective. So there is a challenge in terms of the technology of wearables. There's a challenge with the design of wearables, but there's also, we need to consider the business of wearables. So if we create these things, we have to be able to sell them and get them in the hands of users. So this is where my failure story comes in that I wanted to share with you guys. So through our incubation effort at Artefact, we were looking at the intersection of wearables and photography and wanted to come up with a new experience. So what we found through that is this insight here. There's a whole subculture around the old form factor of Polaroid, the Polaroid. So Polaroid no longer mass manufactures this photography, but what we found is that this whole subculture was using it as a way to express themselves. And we were also finding that people were literally punching a hole in the corner of these photos and putting a chain around them and wearing them. So this became there's a whole subculture around using this form factor as an artistic outcome and a way to express themselves. So we turned that into a product. The product's called Meme. And what Meme is a wearable camera that takes on the form factor of the Polaroid camera. I'm wearing it today. It's here. And what you can do is you wear it, and it has a display on the front that displays the last photo that you took or a photo that you want to share. So it becomes an expression of you. On the back, it has a single button that easily lets you capture it. So it's a really simple point-and-shoot camera. It allows you to document the photos over time, and then ultimately through Bluetooth it connects to your phone that lets you manage and edit your photos. And then from there you can share them through your social networks. So really this device becomes this very expressive product that takes on the form factor or the shape of that Polaroid. And you can use it to share or express or communicate the things that you care about, like your dog or the team that you're rooting for. Go Seahawks. And people, so we ended up building building this, and the customers love them. And I wanted to share some of their reactions. This is what they had to say.
My name's Jennifer Newkirk. I'm 22 years old.
My name is Rachel Jewell. I'm 21.
I'm Cooper Sharif, and I'm 15.
I'm Olivia Ovnell, age 14. I like the concept. I like the idea. I like how it's thin and sleek.
How simple it is. It's like an Apple product, you know. It only has one button.
I do like the convenience and it's very. I'm always pulling out. I'm like, oh gosh, I need to pull out my phone, and it's always oh, let me push. Oh, I pushed the wrong one.
I can see people getting really carried away with what you could do with it.
It makes so much sense. It's just, you push the button, the photos here. I'd probably wear it as a belt buckle.
But I like the necklace. I think that'd be cool.
Oh, and the purse would be a cool idea. I like because, they have little pins that you put on your purse that are really popular.
With having your special friends or someone passing away or someone that you want to remember for that week or you want to wear it that day, I really like that idea. That's what I would do. I had a friend recently pass, so I probably would have worn her picture.
Even if it were just a necklace that you could change for whatever, oh, I'm gonna go to the UW game, let's put a W on there, and then it's oh, I'm going to school at Spirit Week, go swim team or something.
So what we found is customers really connected. These people really connected with this device. And it was a great experience for them. They really wanted this. But what makes for a great experience when we're defining a completely new category of products, especially with wearables, might not necessarily make a great business. So we decided, after all of this work, we decided not to move forward and take it to market. And here, there are a few learnings that we had from that. One is you have to know your customer. In our case, the customer was a teenager. So we understood what their technology behaviors are and the trends around that. So they're capturing images, they're taking, and they're sharing it using communication services to share photos. So the experience really resonated with this group. Then on the other hand, their spending habits and the way that they purchase products was challenged. So we found that teenagers have a very limited amount of income. And within that income, there's a small fraction, 7.5% that they spend on electronics and fashion. So when we're creating this, we have to really consider how we can get the technology at cost and work on get the technology down to a point where this audience, in this case the teenagers, can afford it. So in our case with Meme, our goal was to get the product to be under $100. So at the time, we were designing this about a year ago, so things have changed already in a year. But a year ago, we had to make some compromises in terms of the technology. So we looked at USB. There was a camera. We had to compromise on what the camera is. And the display. In the original design, we wanted a color e-ink display, which made the cost just go like this. So we had to change that to black and white e-ink. And at the time, we still, even with that compromise, we couldn't get the BOM cost or the build and material cost down to under about $20 or $25. So I don't know if that's the case today, but a year ago that was the case. So the challenge there is how do you build these things at cost and make them affordable to your users, to your customers, without compromising on the experience and still adding that desire and making that connection with your audience. And the other learning from this is this idea of how you distribute, how you sell this thing. So in the case of teenagers, or in the case of this product, we were defining a completely new category of products. So this isn't a regular point-and-shoot camera. It's a totally new type of product. So if you're looking at a company like Best Buy, who is used to selling electronics, they don't have historical evidence on where a new product needs to be placed. or the volume, how much can be sold. So traditional retail channels, we have to be creative with traditional retail channels when we're creating these new products and services. So in the case of Meme, the question becomes, do we put it in a Best Buy, or do we go to the places where teenagers actually make their purchases, like Forever 21? And Forever 21, to work with them and get a product like this in this retail environment, they're not used to selling electronics. So it becomes a challenge. So we need to be creative. And really what it's about when we're creating these new products and services is proving ourselves. We need to get it into the hands of users and prove that value and generate that excitement. And there are a lot of platforms that are doing that today, like Indiegogo and Kickstarter. And these are two examples of successfully funded. And what that allows us to do is take pre-orders and get these things built and into the hands of our customers so that we can then place them, go through traditional retail channels and hit the mass market. So if you don't have an appetite of creating new hardware, there are also a lot of opportunities to create new business models around the software side. There are a few companies that are creating these products and opening up their platform for developers to create new products and services on them, like Nike Fuel, Google, Pebble. And one example of this, Nike, through the Nike Accelerator program, they have funded 10 startups. And one of the startups is called GeoPals. And what they're doing is they're taking the fuel metric from Nike, and they're applying it to their audience. So they're using it as a way for kids, like this kid using a device, to unlock play. I have a daughter who's 7 months old, not 7 yet, and she is already using a cell phone. So she's already starting to use technology. So how I interpret this potential business, it would be great to be able to use the fuel to encourage her to be more active, to earn time on devices. So we can get not only can we get creative with how we get the hands of hardware into users, but we can also get creative with the business models with wearables as well. So today, I shared with you these 3 tremendous opportunities that we have. I think they're incredible opportunities. We have a lot of challenges ahead of us. And I think that over the next 2 days, we're going to be sharing our products and sharing our ideas. And I encourage you to all think about ways that we can add beauty, meaning, and periphery into our products so that we can really move them forward and get that $50 billion piece of pie. So, thank you.